Hey everybody, it's Brian Burrs. Welcome to this episode of the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how do you build out a large inside sales organization and how do you do that in multiple locations, multiple teams, through acquisitions, and have a common theme, a common culture, and not have a he said, she said type of culture. So I think you're really going to enjoy this discussion. We've got Tom Whalen on the show today. But before we get into it, I want to make sure you're checking out b2brevenue.com. Now, I put out my book on LinkedIn. I put a link there for it, but you can get it at the website. And what was interesting is the book's about how companies make product selections. And guess who were the most common people who wanted to read it? It was all the analysts, because they don't know. They all think it's because of the research that they do. And that has an effect on the people who read it, maybe. But what ends up happening is that it's about people. It's about power. It's about personal wins. And we forget that. We think that there's some structure or organization or analysis. That's all the BS that justifies it. The real reason is people. And if you don't understand that, you're missing the point. And if you don't have the ability to control and influence and guide that, you're not selling. What you're doing is order taking. So check that out at b2brevenue.com. And also the courses, I've opened them up to companies with multiple students, so you can pick a time on my schedule there, whether it's trying to get meetings into new accounts with an account-based strategy approach, or if you're getting stuck trying to make deals bigger and faster and killing your competition. Closing the complex sale is what you need. Let's get on the phone here with Tom. I think you're really going to enjoy this interview, and I'll sum it up at the end.
Awesome. No, I'm excited to be a part of this. Tom Whalen, I'm from New Jersey. I've lived here pretty much my whole life, except for a short stint in Colorado. And I'm a career inside sales professional. It's the only thing I've ever known, post-college. I started as a rep and, worked up to director here at McKesson, or a Fortune 6 company. I have, 2 daughters and a wife. And, my kids are... oh man, it's getting crazy. I have one that's a junior in college and one that's a junior in high school. So it's keeps me busy to say the least, as well as the dynamic kind of running around role that it takes to lead an inside sales organization. So it's been it continues to be wild and fun. So
you don't need to look for motivation now, do you?
No. College and Catholic school, keeps me plenty motivated.
It sure does. Yeah, those checks are painful.
Exactly.
Right. How'd you get into sales?
So what's funny is my dream job, I suppose at the time, was to be a radio disc jockey. That's what I wanted to do. And what happened was, it's, I guess, being a young kid and first one of my, at least in my family, to kind of graduate school. And you get that sort of thinking of, hey, the world's going to owe me a living and I'm going to go out there and people are going to just throw me job offers, And after a couple of weeks, you figure out, man, this is kind of tough. So I found a radio station that would hire me. It was a small local day-only AM station in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And I did an intern there when I was in college. So I even had an in. And they said, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll put you on the radio right before it gets dark, because when it got dark, they had to close down. That was the FCC law for them. And so in the summertime, right between the drive guy got off at like 7 or thereabouts until it got dark. So I don't know, just summertime, July, maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock if we're lucky. I was able to do that for minimum wage if I sold airtime during the day. That was my job. Yeah. So I said, okay. And so I took that job, and I remember my sales manager, a very nice guy, and he said, hey, here's we're going to train you on selling. He spent about 2 hours with me, gave me a sheet of paper, said, this is how you kind of do it, and go get them. And that was really it, and we were a small AM station. We only kind of covered like Elizabeth and a little bit of Union County and a little bit of Staten Island, and that was it. And so I was out there knocking on doors and trying to sell stuff, and sold a little bit, not much. And it's such a small station, After a while, I was like, man, this is really difficult. So then I said, I gotta do something. And so I got went looking for work, and I said, man, this is crazy. Went looking for work, and I found a job which was selling audio video cabling into the entertainment industry. So I said, okay, that's cool. And it was called, it's Wireworks. It's still around today. I've been, 30 years in business now. Good company. And they, took an interest in me and said, hey, let's train you. And they trained me, the sort of how to sell and why you do it and how to. And at that point, I said, okay, I had made a choice, because my goal was not to be a salesperson, that's the last thing I wanted to do. And, but I said, you know what, I have a choice. I can either do this or die starving. So I said, let me do it, and I kind of committed to it. And, I had some good mentors at Wireworks, and I became kind of a student of the game and, started reading a lot. And at that time, listening to, cassettes, believe it or not, of sales and motivation and things, and kind of, sort of got my bearings and had some success. And, we sold audio video cabling assembly. So our customers were like NBC and ABC and ESPN and that kind of stuff. And this tells you how long ago it was. When Jay Leno, this tells you how long ago it was, took over for Johnny Carson, I sold him his complete microphone splitting system. Not him, the engineers in Burbank, but it was pretty cool, And so I was selling wire, so it wasn't like the, hey, cool, sexy sort of thing. But I thought it was kind of decent. When the Jacksonville Jaguars kind of came up, I sold them all their panels and plates for the stadium, and as well as tons of Broadway shows. And it was a great job, and I loved it. I really did. And it was all on the phone, 100%. So what we would do there is we'd go to trade shows. I don't know, probably about 5 or 6 a year. Some years 4, some years maybe 8. And that's how we got our leads. And then we called them. And so it was it was a great job. I did enjoy it a lot. I got to the point where I got growing and got married, and so let me see what else is going on. Because it was a small company, great people, and that was one of those kind of, man, you hate to sort of leave that. I had feelings of kind of angst about it, but it was time to move on, and I got a job with Compact Computer. At that point, they were on their own, and I was there through the acquisition of Hewlett Packard. And I was selling financing on the phone and for computer products, and started out working the West Coast. So I had Northern California and Hawaii; those are my territory. Oh. And so living in New Jersey, I was there each night till 8 and change, and it was good. I kind of took this. That's the great thing about inside sales; it's so scalable and so transferable that really. I kind of just moved right in and just a different product. That was a bit, at least from my perspective, a little intimidating for me because I had, and you could check out my LinkedIn, but I went to a relatively small school, Kane College, now it's university in Union, New Jersey. And when I got that job, I had only worked for a small company, selling wire. All these other folks, all the other reps, they just launched this team. They were all from like Seton Hall and Maryland and NYU and University of Miami. And I'm like, I'm never going to make it here. I saw, wire, even though I had some big customers, I was like I felt at least like a kind of a small fish in a massive pond. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. But I did well, and everything that I learned up until that point kind of got me through, and it was good. And, after the acquisition of Compaq by Hewlett Packard, they needed a leader. And I ended up leading the team that I was a part of, which I know a lot of reps and, kind of go through that. And it's good. I guess for me, it was great. I did enjoy it. But it's tough because you end up becoming a leader on a team of people who are your peers. And there's a dynamic to that. But it worked out well for me. And
yeah, let's talk about that because a lot of people have a hard time with it. So you go from an individual contributor where you're managing your deals, you're a hunter, and then all of a sudden you turn into a coach, part administrator, part leader.
Yeah.
Those are all completely different skills.
Yeah, it is. And it's, it's kind of like, I look at it sort of like you're still kind of selling, you're selling something else. You're selling, the vision, the dream, and, why folks need to kind of, believe in the program and work hard. Yeah, that was a transition for me. I was lucky in the fact that I had a lot of success as a rep. And so with Hewlett Packard and Compaq, I had won their President's Club trip a couple times and that sort of thing. So I did have, at least starting out of the box, I had at least some respect of the team there. Which is the ironic part was I had a couple of, it was a big team. I think it was like, I don't know, maybe 20 reps or so. I was always working, because I was always got my head down, making calls and stuff. I had a couple of people I was close with, but other than that, I didn't know a lot of the other guys on the team because they rolled up to different managers, but we all were on the same inside sales group. So that was took a little bit to get used to. But yeah, no, it's leading a team that you're a part of. It's actually, I wrote an article about it. I look at it kind of like the Matrix. Because you ever see the original Matrix movie, right? There's like, hey, the world's sort of normal, but then behind the scenes, there's all this stuff going on that you just don't even know about. And that's where I sort of felt like man, there's a whole lot of things that are happening that as an individual contributor, you just never see it. Yeah, you never see it. You're like, my God, wow, so that's how budgets get done. Oh, man, that's what this thing costs. I had no idea.
Yep. This is how you get rid of people. This is how you hire people. This is how, this is why manager cares about the forecast. And this is what happens if it's not clean.
Exactly. And that was an eye-opening experience too. Like, man, well, now I know all those, it opened my eyes to say, man, that's why, my boss was asking me for this and why we couldn't do that. And okay, all right, I get it. But, I think the biggest thing about even when you're being going from a rep to manager, or even as a manager itself, is kind of explaining like that why. Because as a rep, I didn't. Yeah, sometimes I'd ask why, but 9 times out of 10, I was just mostly focused on let me get my deals done, let me get my calls in, let me do well, that kind of thing. So I didn't really pay much attention to it unless it it kind of hit me on the head. That's reality, but. I was kind of, I guess, the anomaly because a lot of folks want to know that stuff. And I figured that out when I was a leader. And so the one thing I think it's so important is explaining why things happen, because people want to, they just want to know. And it makes it so much easier if they understand. Oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Then, all right. And I know there's some things you can share and some things you can't. But I try to be as transparent as I can. And I'm lucky, with McKesson and Hewlett Packard too. And, we transparent organizations, which was great. And so they're okay with, as long as it's not company confidential or that kind of thing, competitive information or putting anything at risk, they're very pleased to share that kind of stuff, which is great. And so, and it plays right into my leadership style.
And how long did it take you to get adjusted to that transition? That's
a good question. I would say probably, definitely 6 months, probably thereabouts, just to kind of get your feet wet. Sort of. Now, at that time, too, when I took the role on, I did have my boss was a good mentor there. And I know that sounds like keep talking about mentorship, but that's so important to find somebody who will help you and ask those questions and bounce that off of, because when it's new, you just don't know. And I was reading a ton and that sort of thing. And but I had a good mentor there who would help me with that stuff. Like I remember doing our first forecast meeting, and at that point at Hewlett Packard, or Compaq at the time, we had to present to our president, and he was tough. He was tough as nails. And he said, okay, well, here's what he's focused on. This is what you need to talk about, and don't talk about that, but this is good. And he'd be in the room with me when I would do these, and until I got on my feet and did it myself. But he would jump in where I kind of stumble a little bit. And so that was huge for me, because that helped me a lot. And kind of I've taken that, into other jobs, and still to this day, some of those things that I remember, where you want to focus on. I think also even in my role today, where we're a medical supply company, my background's always been in finance. After the wire from Hewlett Packard, American Express, I did equipment finance in healthcare and in IT. And a lot of that stuff that you learn, about business and how a company makes money and a P&L, and that's all transferable no matter what you do. And now here at McKesson, I mean, yeah, of course we're caring for patients and we're dealing with medical supplies and that sort of thing. But how a company makes money and credit and understanding the return on investment, all that stuff is transferable. It was a great benefit to me. It's what I say to folks when I hire new people, and because we get we hire new folks and we get a lot of kids from college and things. And I say, hey, what do you got to do to be successful and that kind of thing. And I always say, understand how a company makes money, understand how to read a P&L, you need to know that stuff, because that will help you here, but that's going to help you for your career.
And that's it. And why did you choose to go to into management versus out in the field, or any other alternative that the company?
Yeah, that's a good question too. It's really good. I think that this is going to sound kind of funny, but I'm not really good with directions, right? And this is before I think the cell phones and all the GPSs. So number one, I was like, man, can I go out and find anybody? That's when I was selling that advertising, and I was just in a small little area. I'd get lost all the time. So that may have been like maybe one reason, but I think another probably the real reason is that I find inside sales to be so efficient. So I never really had a desire to go out into the field. It just wasn't for me. I mean, of course I went and called on hundreds of customers and face to face and worked, gosh, I couldn't tell you how many trade shows and things, but being like, I feel like when I'm at my desk and, even though I'm, when I was selling, I felt like I was kind of like in the cockpit of like a jet fighter or something. Everything's in front of me. I can execute everything I need to do, and I get it done faster and quicker and more efficiently than if I was knocking on doors and driving. When I made the transition to management, I got to the point as a rep where, and again, you get to a point where you've had a lot of success and you've won the trips and and all that good things. I said, man, how can I contribute more to the organization? And at that point, after that acquisition with Hewlett Packard, HP said, okay, what we're going to do is we have this finance group, and they had the way we were segmented was kind of like enterprise, government, and small medium business at the time with Compaq. And I said, okay, we're gonna make it even more granular, more siloed, and so we can really penetrate these markets. Because at that point, obviously IBM was a big competitor, and Dell was a big one too. And they said, okay, they created all these different segments, and they said, hey, we need someone to lead that SMB group that I was a part of. And the best way to do it is on the phone, and we got to cover more ground. And you think you'd give it a shot? And I said, yeah. I said, I think it'd be great. And I didn't have to interview for it. It was probably the most grueling interview I've ever done. And it was a panel interview and all this stuff. But I guess I got to the point where I was like, man, I want to contribute more to the organization, and I could sell, and I can still do it. I make a good income and that sort of thing. But I thought I could make more impact, and I did, and it was good. And but I think you have to have that sort of. And again, I talk to people all the time about leadership, and there's some people that want to, go in and help and teach and coach, and some people don't, and that's okay too, and folks like to make money, and that's great too. And, as an individual contributor, when I was, my dream was to be on the radio, but when I was in high school, and I thought I didn't have to write the paper of what do you want to be when you grow up. And when I was in high school, I wanted to be a wrestling coach, and I wanted to be a gym teacher and a wrestling coach. So I got to college and I said, I want to be on the radio. But, I think sort of, and I did coach once I graduated college, like Pee Wee wrestling programs and things. And I think some of that coaching, I think kind of spilled over, and I do it every day. And I always say, like, I feel like I kind of, even though I don't, I feel like I coach high school sports for a living kind of, because every day we're winning and we're losing. And, I have guys that are, need help, and guys that are just blowing it out, and training, future leaders. And I feel that I have that kind of coaching piece sort of spilled over, which makes me excited.
Yeah, I kind of sense that when you brought up your kids. But, when people do that, it's, clearly that's a leadership thing, right? Mm-hmm. Being a great parent. That's, the biggest leadership challenge anyone can really have, right?
You're right about that.
You can't fire them.
You're right about, exactly. Right. Sometimes you want to, right? Yeah. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, that's 100%. 100%.
Now, tell us what your org looks like at your current role.
Sure.
How many managers do you have? How many reps?
Yeah. So right now, we're probably a little under-managered. I think we have 2 managers and 5 team leads. We need to build our leadership structure a little bit here, and that's something that I'm kind of working on a little bit. But we have just about 60 reps and 2 locations. We're in New Jersey and Richmond, Virginia, and so we call on pretty much every segment of extended care. So skilled nursing homes, home health agencies, retail pharmacies, assisted livings, DMEs, that kind of thing, durable medical suppliers, that kind of thing. And so we have, I guess, about 5 or 6 groups. I also have one group that sells I have another group that sells flu vaccine. They're new this year. And then one that sells capital equipment into skilled nursing. And so they're all they all obviously sell on the phone, but each one's a little bit different. And so there's a little bit of nuance to who they're speaking to and that sort of thing. So it's a challenge and it's fun. I do like it. I guess it was last year we just, when we expanded into our Virginia office. Now where I sit we're in a distribution center. So we have an office in a distribution center. Our Virginia office is our headquarters for our med surg business. And New Jersey is a little bit different than Virginia. And being in a warehouse is a little bit different than being, in the corporate office. So, a big focus of mine, last year, and always, but I had to put a little extra focus on, I think, last year because the team was new, is making sure to have that same culture. And that was even from our president who said, hey, you guys have a good culture. We want to make sure that we replicate that here in Virginia. And I think we were successful at doing it. We do a lot of Skype. We do a lot of, we have a, kind of virtual presence, TVs and cameras and things. And we do a lot of that kind of stuff. And, and the most important, we do contests or whatever. We don't do like hey, this is the New Jersey contest and this is the Virginia contest, unless the building does something like, we do the whole thing. It's for everybody. Like everything's for pretty much everybody, unless the building is doing something like, like this week, our particular office is doing something for, it's a charity function. So that's just for this office this week. And Virginia had theirs 2 weeks ago. But otherwise, we try and keep everything across the board the same. So, it's not any different. And we use like a lot of folks, Salesforce, and we have our own chatter page, and everyone shares and talks and communicates through that as well. So keeping that culture consistent, I think, is of critical importance, because if you have one office is doing this and the other one's doing that, it just doesn't work. I think it creates well, those guys have it better than we do, and I say you guys all have it the same, good or bad. So
is that one of the challenges, is kind of keeping a consistency so that everything is kind of in order? I got to imagine with 60 reps, you got to have that.
It can be. It can be, but we have a great team. I got to say, I mean, they're, again, like it's like your kids, you have your challenges sometimes, but but overall, I mean, it's a good group, and they do what's best for the organization. God bless them. So we don't have which again, I'm proud to say, maybe I couldn't have said it a few years ago, but we don't have a lot of belly aching or that kind of thing. I mean, our guys do, suck it up and get after it. And there's things that go our way and things that don't. And even when they don't, there's a little bit of a letdown. Like, okay, well, all right, let's just get it done. And so they are good with that aspect. So, but it is a challenge. And, knock on wood, this is our 10th year doing it. We're our inside sales here with Extendicare. So we've been through the fires, and we've kind of had our ups and downs, but we're in a really good place now. And I have some great leaders too. I mean, I say I'm a little under-leadered, but I have two very good managers, and our team leads are phenomenal too. So, we're lucky. We're very, very lucky. I can't complain one bit. But yeah, no, that can be a challenge. And I think if we had to break out our team into two different areas, probably in year 2 or 3 or something like that, it would have been a lot harder. It definitely would have been a lot harder. We did in year, I guess, 8. So we kind of had it down by that point, which is good.
Yeah. And what are your major challenges? Is it technology? Is it hiring? Is it training?
I can tell you there's all the above. So where we at, there's some, again, I'm always recruiting. My managers are always recruiting. So even when we don't have a role, we get folks that, hey, you have a resume, and we keep them. And, we're hiring somebody now who interviewed, maybe 6 months ago. We always have a pipeline of candidates, and sometimes they're available and sometimes they're not. I mean, I had some reps out here that, I interviewed them 2 years before they were even hired, just because it just didn't work out when they had, they were working and we didn't have a role. So we're always recruiting. Technology, it can be a challenge. It can be a challenge. McKesson it's a great company, and we grow by acquisition. And so, and we grow organically too, but we do buy a lot of companies. That you can see that, just by watching the internet. And then integrating organizations, the technology challenge is, it's a real life thing for us. So our guys are very resilient in that aspect. I'm not even say that's the, just our inside sales team, which they are. I'm going to say that's a McKesson thing. We purchased an organization, a require company. We integrate a new technology, and you get those struggles. So I think that's always going to persist, and that's probably not just a McKesson. That's probably a company thing, because there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions. And training for me is paramount, because, talking back when I kind of first, had success in sales, selling wire, what I think made it work for me was I made the decision to say, I'm going to be a student of the game. I'm going to learn as much as I humanly possibly can. And so I kind of instilled that into the team as much as I can. We have manufacturers in here once a week doing in-services on the stuff we sell. We have, our company has, I guess it does a great job with online learning and tools and things. But even outside of that, I teach a sales class. Our two managers also, when they have their team meetings, they keep a portion of that for training and development. They work on development plans for the reps every quarter. The reps are having a new development plan. Not necessarily like a performance improvement plan, like trying to get you out the door, but like hey, what can we do to make you better? And that's awesome. And I think you have to constantly do that, because the landscape is changing every minute, especially in healthcare. I mean, what worked, 5 years ago is not going to work tomorrow, and you have to stay on top of it. And especially I don't know how much you follow the, healthcare, but with the reimbursement, being compressed and all the small providers being gobbled up, and it's getting tough. And so, companies have to do more with less. And so we have to move faster, get better. And, and I'm not, hiring a lot of my reps aren't guys that are, hey, I've been selling healthcare, medical supplies and equipment on the phone for the last 5 years. So let me start with you guys. 9 times out of 10, it's somebody who was a sales rep, maybe selling something else, or maybe they're right out of school. So we're either teaching them on sales, we're teaching them on healthcare, sometimes both. And so fortunately, we have a good program for that. That's a big one too. I mean, you got the big three right there. Technology, hiring, and training. Those are definitely the big ones. The big ones. I mean, and then whatever else goes on in healthcare with competitive bid or anything else for that matter.
Hey, this has been a great conversation. It looks like you're having a lot of success there. Where do people go to connect up with you and learn more about your company? Yeah. If they're looking for a job, maybe connect with you.
Yeah, definitely. You can check me out on LinkedIn. That's probably the best spot. It's Tom Whalen, TomWhalen. And you can connect to me or just send me an IN message. And definitely. We always have a pipeline of folks. We may not have a role right at the moment, but we always have a pipeline, and we're always looking to hire good folks. So good folks, let me know.
I think that's a great story Tom has for us about building out an organization, scaling it up. And when you love doing something, when it fits you, it really is a good match for you to stick with it and grow with the company. So check out Tom on LinkedIn. Also, connect up with me on LinkedIn. I really appreciate those people who follow the company page, the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast page on LinkedIn. Tell a friend about it. And if you know somebody that you'd like to have on the show, and if you know that person pretty well, maybe it might be you, love to help you get your story out to the community. We're over 15,000 listeners right now and growing pretty fast. I think everybody likes to hear from their peers and hear what's working out there today, because it's changing so fast. And speaking of changing, are you checking out Discover.org? Instead of having your reps research all day, what you need is basically all this data already done for you. They got over 200 people who are doing all this research every day to make sure you get the right contact information, to map it to people who are in market for your product that you're selling, and what they care about. All of that is given to you online and updated automatically for you. So discoverorg.com. Tell them you heard it about on the B2B Revenue Leadership Show from Brian Burns. And connect up with me on LinkedIn. Just tell me you heard about the podcast so I know who you are. And if you see my content on LinkedIn, give it a little like, a little thumbs up. And if your team would like to take it to the next level, get the meetings just crushing it. We've got people who are getting meetings at the C-level within 2 weeks in a natural, organic, non-pitchy, non-spammy way. Check it out. Start the conversation. Get the meeting over at B2BRevenue.com. You can schedule a call with me. We can talk over what you're up against and what you'd like to achieve and how we can do that together. and do it fast, online, incrementally, not this 2-day on-site. I used to do that, and people would be excited. They learn the stuff, but what ends up happening is they go back to their old habits over a couple of months. This is a year-long program that gives you access and opportunities in a community to understand exactly what is working today and adapt it to what is going to happen. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode. And I really would appreciate everybody who goes onto LinkedIn, connects up with me or follows me there. If you happen to see some of my content flying by, if you could throw a little thumbs up or a comment or a share, I definitely appreciate it. It helps spread the word about the podcast. And make sure you're checking out my website, b2brevenue.com. You can get my free book on how companies make product selections. It's a real book. It is on Amazon, but I give it away for free. Just register there. It'll email you a link to it, and you can just download the PDF from there. Also, if you want to check out the courses, start the conversation, get the meeting, or closing the complex sale, and you have more questions about it, the short answer is there are video courses. You get access for a year, but it's also a community. What does that mean? You can ask questions anytime via voicemail or email. I answer them within a week, put them into the course. We have office hours every other week. It's an hour long course where you can I pick a topic, answer questions, you can ask questions. Also, you can schedule one-on-ones for free, and we just talk through your particular use case, and that gets shared with the course. So if you don't have time for office hours or the timing doesn't work, or you just want some more one-on-one help, that's all included for a whole year. So it's really a year to go from where you are to where you want to be. And so it's not just videos. It's not just knowledge. It's practice. It's getting feedback. You can send me emails. You can send me your presentation. I'll help you with anything that you need to close the complex sale or get the meeting. And you can check out them at b2brevenue.com. So that's it. I really appreciate it. And please tell somebody about the podcast and let me know if I can help you in any way. Oh, and you want to hear some results from the course? Well, here you go.
I love the approach. It's working for me just fantastic. If I sent you some of the emails, which I should, the conversations that I'm having with people, I think you'd be blown away because they're not really about work. Yeah. I've figured out if you can kind of get personal with them, like one lady, it's all about her family, kids. And then I sprinkled in a little bit around work, and she's LinkedIn, sending me messages on LinkedIn, photos of her family. No, I'm not even kidding. I should show this to you. You'd be stunned. I was shocked. And we're going to lunch on September 6th. And yesterday she shot me a LinkedIn message and said, "Hey, Ron, why don't we get on the phone and do a video call beforehand so our lunch isn't so awkward? We're like barely not meeting each other for the first time." Oh, holy cow, right? Like, this is unbelievable. So this is not the first time that this has happened. She's kind of an extreme, but I'm starting to figure out a pattern where I can actually make this a process, So
good. Yeah.
I'll show you that. So it's getting to that point, and every time I do this, I'm like, God, this is unbelievable, So,
and it feels better too, doesn't it?
Oh, Brian, let me tell you something. To be able to go to lunch with her, I'll even talk to her on the phone, right? We're going to talk about family, kids, work-life harmony, because I shared a thing with her from Bezos about work-life harmony. This is where the conversation will start. Now, at some point, we're both not stupid, right? We know we're going to talk about work. We know why we're both there. Right. But to kick it off this way is so much better. And to end that lunch with the last 5 to 8 minutes of telling, well, what are you guys doing with digital